3, 2, 1.
We're down here in Frederick, Maryland at Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium for another stop on the MASN All Access tour of the Orioles minor league affiliates. Welcome into MASN All Access. I'm your host, Paul Mancana. We've got another great show for you today. Interviews lined up with Zach Jarrett, D.L. Hall, Robbie Thorburn, and others. But let's kick things off here on MASN All Access with an interview with the head man, Ryan Miner. We're sitting in the dugout of the Frederick Keys with the manager of the Frederick Keys. That is Ryan Miner. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Ryan, you have a fascinating story. You've been with the Orioles organization for over a decade now, but I want to throw it back to your college days when you played basketball in college, and you were an outstanding player, so much so that you got drafted, correct, in the second round by the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yep, that is correct.
1996, right?
It was, yeah. It was seems like forever ago, which it probably is, but yeah, it was a fun 4 years of college for me to be able to play both baseball and basketball, and then obviously get an opportunity to play some professional basketball and get drafted that same year with, Allen Iverson being the first pick overall.
That's right.
Being in some good company that year, so it was really fun to be a part of that.
Did you ever get to meet AI?
Oh yeah, I went to camp with the Sixers, played in the summer league that the NBA has
Gotcha.
prior to going to camp, and so just being around, Jerry Stackhouse was on that team. So,
Wow.
Don McClain, Michael Cage, some really Derek Coleman, some really good players. Just to be around those guys for the period of time that I was with the Sixers was we know it was a good experience that I always remember.
Did you ever think you were going to go down the road that far with basketball? Or what point did you decide you were going to switch over?
I did. When I was in college, there was always the notion that I was going to be a high pick coming out after my junior year, but I went back for my senior year, and that year there was a lot of foreign players that were drafted, kind of a new thing, and it dropped some of the seniors down in the draft a little bit. But
Gotcha.
I had gotten drafted by the Orioles, after my senior year of not playing baseball, but they drafted me anyway, so I had the opportunity to do both. I did like I said, the summer league, and I went and played in Bluefield for our short season team at the time, and then I ended up going to camp with the Sixers, and then re-signing back with the Orioles on a different contract. So I got some different avenues that I had an opportunity to fulfill. So fortunately for me, I had the fallback opportunity with the Orioles, and that's where I've been ever since.
Is there anything that you could have learned or did learn from your time in basketball that you could maybe pull over to baseball?
It's tough. It's totally two different sports.
Wildly different,
One's
yeah.
a little slow paced, where the other one's so you're on you have a clock above you, and it's so fast paced. But I think what you can take out of basketball is how competitive it is, and kind of instill that on some of these guys, especially at the plate, and the pitchers on the mound. You have to be able to compete and kind of focus all your attention to be able to sustain that throughout the course of a season. But whereas in basketball it's a little bit different. So you have 60-minute games or whatever they are, and compared to 3 and 4 hour games. So it's kind of a give and take kind of opportunity there.
Yeah. Now you spent several years in the O's organization, and you ended up playing with them for a little bit. You maybe one of your biggest claims to fame in terms of 1998, taking over for Cal Ripken after the streak had ended. What do you remember about that day and that game?
Well, I remember it all still vividly. It's one of those things where I'm just kind of a footnote in history as far as being the guy that was there and available to play that night. I was a rookie, obviously, and Ray Miller put me out there just to, because Cal had said he wanted to do the end of the streak at home, and for me it was kind of a thing where I didn't have time to get nervous or worry about the night before, because they told me about 10 to 15 minutes before the game. So it was I was able to prepare myself just for the 10 minutes or so before, just to go out and play a game,
right.
Not worry about all the other stuff that was going to happen after that game. So, I just remember, the crowd, the anticipation of because, it's the last home game of the year, everybody wants to see Cal play.
Yeah.
And, then they kind of realized that he wasn't playing, so it took on a different type of, an atmosphere after that. So it was kind of turned into a game, into kind of a celebration, almost. So I was really fortunate to be able to be a part of that, and be a part of that, like I said, just a little footnote in history on a big night for Cal.
Was there any part of you that didn't want to be that guy to take over just because of the amount of acclaim that Cal had taken during that streak?
No, he's one of those things where I was coming up through the minor leagues, everybody compared me to him just because of our size.
Yeah.
Both played the same position, and it was one of those things where he was getting towards the end of his career, and in the latter stages of his career, and I happened to play that position. So it's kind of one of those things where you were prepared for it. Wasn't prepared to be the guy that played the night he didn't play. We just figured he'd play every game for the rest of his career and then step out once the season was done. But it was hard to live up to after that. Because of the comparisons, nobody can compare to what he did through his career, and then you obviously try to do and live up to that. It was never going to work to that way. But I had fun playing. I obviously had fun that night, and then being able to talk about it 20-some years later.
And you ended up playing about 142 major league games, and then you get into coaching after that. And this is your second stint here with the Frederick Keys. You've also spent time down in Delmarva with the Shorebirds. How have you seen the Orioles organization change over the 20 plus years now that you've been involved in this?
It's different. Players are different. Coaching styles are different. Obviously the type of, the way the game's played now, it has evolved. As player development, as coaches and managers, you have to evolve with it as well. And even when I finished playing and started getting into coaching, and fortunately for me, I've been able to be a manager for a while. You see the different aspects of the game, and even with our organization, you go from, the philosophies of being we want to grow, big league hitters, to now it's you want to develop pitching. So it's a range of different things, and you have to adjust with it. But I think the way the organization is moving forward from what we've done, in the last 10 years or so is, we're taking a really, really big step forward with some of the new philosophies, and hopefully we can continue and just keep producing big league players. That's all you want to do is, in player development, is help the big league team out.
There have been a lot of changes within the past year as well, with the new Mike Elias regime taking over at the top of the Orioles organization. We've been to a couple other minor league teams within this organization, and they've talked about the kind of changes that they've seen from the top and what they've gotten from the top down below. Have you seen any major changes, and have you gotten any advice from the top?
There's a philosophy they put in place, and you follow that philosophy. We've got a different way of playing time this year. We've got a different philosophy on how we're going to pitch, and defensive philosophy. We're doing a lot of the shifting that we haven't done in the past. So there's all this new intangibles that have been placed upon us to be able to follow, and to the guys' credit, they've been able to handle it and put their plan in place to be able to go out and execute what we've asked them to do. And so it's been a big step for us to be able to to adhere to the new changes, and the way the guys have handled it, been really successful.
Awesome. And how much of that falls on you in terms of implementing that stuff, or is that something that you maybe give to some of the coaches below you to implement on a game-by-game
Yeah,
level?
It starts with the manager. I mean, they get the information, but also our hitting coach gets his information from the hitting coordinator, Jeff Manto, and then our pitching coach, Justin Lord here, gets it from Chris Holt. But, it's kind of a collective thing at the top, and then once it gets to our coordinators, it goes through me, but usually the position players and the pitching guys, they get their information from the coordinators, and it's just up to myself to make sure that gets implemented. And then to the players, we're on them about making sure they take care of their business and do what we ask of them to get better. And as you've seen some of the results this year, it's been real successful.
Some of the results have been awesome, especially in terms of the guys that have moved on already from Frederick. Ryan Ripken was recent, Cody Sedlock, former first-round pick. How much pride do you get when you see guys with this team outperform expectations and move on?
That's a goal. You want to put them in a place in a situation where they can succeed and be successful, and obviously those guys, it's up to them. They have to go out and do it and prepare themselves and be able to do what they do on the field to get a chance to get promoted. But the guys that we've had here, we've just tried to prepare them the best we can and do what the organization has asked to make them a better player, and prepared to have a successful plan in place and to execute it. And they've done that, and now that they're at different levels and having success, it really makes you proud of what your job. It feels like an accomplishment of what your job is, and it's rewarding when you see that happen.
Yeah, and in terms of the record, it probably isn't exactly what you might think and what might hope for in terms of the season, but in terms of the individual performances, you've got some amazing performances so far from some of your players. Does that also give you a sense of pride, seeing those individual guys just take their talents and run with it?
It does. It does. I know in the minor leagues, everybody wants to win, but it's not about winning minor league baseball, even though you want to produce a winning culture, and that's what we've tried to do. But on the flip side of that, it's about player development and getting the guys that are ready and available to go and help at the next level, and hopefully at some point they're going to help the big league team out. So it does, it makes you feel good that when these guys go out and they're able to do what they can do to get better, and they do have good results showing. Even though your team record might not be where you want it to be, the individual success is always something that you look forward to.
You've got a great young pitcher on the mound tonight, Brendan Hanafy. Hopefully they actually get to play some baseball tonight. I know you guys have had a couple games banged within the past 24 hours, but hopefully we get some game in here tonight and you get to see one of your good young pitchers here. So best of luck the rest of the way for the season, and we appreciate you sitting down with us, Ryan.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Ryan Miner, manager of the Frederick Keys. We're sitting down here in the Frederick Keys dugout with DL Hall, one of the top prospects in the Orioles system. DL, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Fans might have seen you just a few weeks ago in the Futures game out in Cleveland. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was amazing. It was, it was a lot of fun being able to play in a big league stadium and get some big league treatment, and play in front of all those fans. It was very exciting.
Your fastball in that game was touching 98 miles an hour. Did you feel like that was an opportunity to show off some of your stuff?
Yeah. I think, some adrenaline going and stuff like that. I usually I think anybody tries to bring out their best stuff, when they're on such a big stage. So it was a lot of fun for sure. You being a first-round pick, do you feel like that kind of added any pressure to you as you began your professional career, or were you able to deal with it all as it came? I try to kind of, put that in the back pocket and not really think about it too much. I think it definitely adds on, some pressure, but I mean, it's kind of something you try not to, think about. Yeah. It's something that, you just try and go out and be the best player and best teammate that you can be every single day, and try to kind of forget about that part of it. In terms of your repertoire, you've got now 4 pitches that you're able to use effectively: fastball, curveball, slider, and the changeup, which was a recent addition to your repertoire. How did that come about that you were able to add that to your pitch arsenal? Once I got into pro ball, I threw one in high school, but not very much. I barely ever used it. I was, in high school, you can just, if you throw hard, you just blow it by guys. But once I got to pro ball, I started working on it more and more because I knew it was going to be vital. If I was going to go on to upper levels, so I started, developing it and just trusting and throwing it in games, and just when you first start throwing it in games, it's kind of disappointing because it's not going to be great from the beginning. Yeah. You hang it a couple times, you give up a couple homers, and it gets hit hard, or you throw it for balls and you walk people when you first start throwing it. But that's all a part of it, and it teaches you how to use it, and I think that was the biggest thing for me, was just putting it into play and just learning how to pitch with it and developing it to get more movement and slow it down. And when you're throwing a fastball close to 100 miles an hour, and then you come back with a changeup that's in the low 80s, how dangerous is that? And have you seen the effects of that on opposing hitters? Yeah, it's something that I guess I can say that I'm blessed with, because I talk to some of my teammates all the time. They're like, most people's changeups are like mid to upper 80s at least, and I mean, I can reach back and throw mine as hard as I can, and it's not going to get over like 83, 84 miles an hour. For some reason, I've just it just came about and it works. Yeah, that's nasty. How much has this coaching staff, you've been with them the whole year with Ryan Miner, how much have they helped in terms of developing the pitches that you have in your arsenal? Oh yeah, my pitching coach Justin Lord, he's stayed on me all year, and I got to work with him all year last year as well. So, being comfortable is huge. Already knowing the pitching coach, and he knows me, he knows what's in my arsenal, and so being able to have that comfortable feeling really helps with developing everything and knowing how each other work.
And now you, as being seen as a top prospect, not just in the Orioles system, but in all of baseball, how much do you pay attention to prospect rankings, whether it's Baseball America, ESPN, or whatever it is? Do you keep track of all that in your mind, or is that something that you tune out?
I think it's kind of, like the first round thing. It's something that I tune out. I feel like it's a huge honor, but at the same time, it's made up by a bunch of guys sitting behind a computer looking at stats, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that at all, but I also think that there's something different about actually going out there every day and somebody being there and actually seeing what you can do versus hearsay and just the numbers, and seeing what somebody actually has in their arsenal. But I think, it's definitely a huge honor to be considered to even be on, all of those ranking stuff. But it's definitely something that I try to block out and just keep working. And, maybe I will be higher on the list one day.
Yeah,
So,
it's something you can't control, though, at any point, yeah. Now, you being still one of the younger guys on this Frederick team, you don't turn 21 for several months. Have you been able to learn or pick up anything from the more veteran members of this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been like that ever since I've been in pro ball. I came in pro ball at 18, and being last year going for my first full season, going ahead and starting in a full season team. I think I was like 2.5 years under the average age of the league last year, and this year probably 3.5, 4 years. Especially at the beginning of this year, we had a pretty older team, so I think the age difference was big, but I think it definitely is huge. Being around some older, mature guys that have just mature in the game, and have seen been around pro ball for a while and know how everything works, not just on the baseball side but the business side and everything like that. It's just definitely helpful to have that around.
Absolutely. Now, your ERA is right around 3.5, and your strikeout rate is way up over where it was last year. You're just 5 strikeouts away from 100, which was the total that you had all of last year. What would you attribute that higher strikeout rate to? What is working against opposing hitters that you're able to blow them away?
I think my biggest thing is just kind of trusting my stuff this year compared to last year. My walks are up this year, so some might say that I'm timid around the zone, but I think that's not it at all. I think that this year I've been really trying to go after guys, and sometimes it gets me in trouble where I'm trying to go for the strikeout and end up falling behind on guys. But I think it all has to do with last year being my first full season. It's like, I'm in pro ball, these guys can hit, so kind of nitpicking around the zone and getting hard hit outs and stuff like that. And this year just like going right at guys and just trusting my stuff, and I feel like that's helped me out a lot as far as my strikeouts go.
Yeah, it's led to a lot of success. Now, you obviously weren't drafted by the current regime at the top of the Orioles with Mike Elias and Sig Mejdal, but have you had a chance to meet with them and talk about their expectations for you or what they've seen from you that they like? Yeah,
I got to meet Mike Elias when he was with the Astros. He came and did a home visit with me before the draft. Before I was drafted, so I actually got to meet him for about an hour at my house one day.
Nice. What were your impressions of him?
Oh yeah, man. I thought he was awesome. They were one of like the top teams on my list that were supposed to take me, and then they ended up passing on me, but now I'm back with him anyway.
There you
so
go.
I mean, it's pretty cool. And then I got to have meet him again have a conversation with him again while he was with the Orioles at FanFest.
Nice.
I mean, it's kind of something. It's been more casual than talking about any expectations or anything, but I'm definitely excited for what we have coming.
Yeah, absolutely, and fans are certainly excited to see what you do the rest of the season and in future years. So good luck the rest of the season, and thanks for sitting down here on MASN All Access.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
DL Hall, one of the top prospects in all of baseball. We are going to do a little walk and talk here with
All right.
Robbie Thorburn.
Let's do it.
You are used to walking around this area. We are walking around the warning track
Pretty
right
familiar.
now. Yeah, you play all 3 outfield positions, and that goes back to your days in college at UNC Wilmington. You played center field. You also played a little second base. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
But you haven't gone back to the infield. You've stayed in the outfield here.
Yeah.
Back at your days at UNC Wilmington, you've got so many family connections out there.
Yeah.
Your brother is down there right now, and your
Yep.
grandfather is a physics professor. How come you didn't take his class?
Well, to be honest with you, I knew I would have got a bad grade.
Okay.
I knew it would have been a tough class. He's a tough teacher, and he wouldn't have given me any special credit, nothing like that. So, Grandpa, I'm sorry I didn't take your class, but it was just not going to work out.
Gotcha. And your brother, you got to see his first hit down there. How proud are you to see him go to your alma mater and already hitting the ground running with the baseball team?
Yeah, it's tough to put into words. That day was really special. My whole family was there. Just seeing him in my old uniform was just really cool, something I'll never forget. And I'm so proud of him and the work he's been putting in, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Awesome. Now, you've been putting in a whole lot of work here in the Orioles minor league system because you started out the season with Delmarva. That team obviously took off in the first half. You got to clinch with them down in West Virginia. What was that experience like?
That was definitely something I'll never forget. I mean, just all the hard work we put in, all the wins we had, and then to finally, get the news that we clinched the first half and we're going to the playoffs was just a really special feeling to share with all my teammates and coaches. It was awesome.
And then you get the call up here, and you've played all 3 outfield positions as mentioned. Which position do you feel the most comfortable in? Is it center, left, right?
I wouldn't say I'm more comfortable at any of them. I prefer center just because it's the most fun for me because I like to run around. But I can play all 3, and I'll just play wherever Coach Miner puts me at and just do my best.
The guys in Delmarva, I got there just after you left, and they said we missed the perfect leadoff hitter. He came here. You've hit leadoff sometimes, but other times not as much.
Yeah.
Do you prefer the leadoff position?
I couldn't really say. It's just wherever the team needs me. I just try to do my job wherever I'm at in the lineup. Get on base, score runs, steal bases, drive in runners, and got a lot of really solid teammates to drive me in. So it's fun to get on base and score for those guys wherever that is in the lineup.
Is speed a big part of your game?
I like to think so. You can't really play the outfield if you don't have a little bit of speed. So I try to utilize that as much as possible and just kind of let my athleticism take over.
Nice. Well, you cover the entire outfield grass as we started out in left field.
Yeah.
We hit center field, and now we are going to finish our walk and talk down by the right field corner. Robbie Thorburn, thank you so much for taking the time here on MASN All Access. Good luck the rest of the season. Robbie Thorburn,
Thank you.
outfielder, do it all for the Frederick Keys. We're sitting down here with Blaine Knight, and Blaine, the last time I talked to you, Arkansas was in the College World Series. I'm so sorry that they got bounced in the first round. How tough was that loss?
I mean,
Not to bring it back up.
No,
I know it was
I mean,
a month
it's-
or so ago.
no, I mean, they played well.
Yeah.
I mean, the team that we had, we were a lot of older guys that had, we had a lot of experience on that team. And this team last year, they were young, so I mean, I was extremely proud of them for even getting there, especially how tough the SEC always is. And, Omaha this year was, that was a tough group that was there. And, so I mean, it happens. It's part of it. They got beat up by Florida State. Florida State was hot when they got to LSU. And, so, I mean, they caught a hot team at the wrong time. And it's part of it, though. It's part of postseason baseball.
Yeah, you're a Little Rock kid who went to Arkansas, first in your family, though, to go to the University of Arkansas. How great was that, going to the school that you grew up rooting for?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, it was a dream come true. I've always bled red, and so I mean, it's being a Hog fan growing up and going to the games at Baum Stadium, and talking to Van Horn after games and all the players after games when I was a kid, then being able to transition that into being coached by Coach Van Horn and being the guy that's getting talked to by all the kids and stuff. It was kind of surreal, but it was a dream come true.
And now you're a legend dare I say, at the University of Arkansas. Have you gotten a chance to go back and share some of your wisdom, or at least meet back with some of the coaches?
Oh yeah, I mean, last offseason I went back up, and because they started all the fall games with Wichita State and University of Arkansas Little Rock and stuff like that, and I went back and hung out and visited and got to watch from the stands this time instead of the dugout, and so that was a little different. But being able to see all of them and see them all doing well was a good sight to see.
Now you're obviously a professional, and you have been called up, you've been promoted rather, up to Frederick back in early mid-May. What have you learned during that promotion in terms of the way that the game has changed? You talked, I remember, a month or so ago about not being able to get away with as much at the higher level. Is that something that you've learned when you've gotten here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guys that are here, I mean, they're all older guys, and they've seen guys like me 100 times, and like guys, everybody on the staff 100 times, and so I mean, nothing's new to them. And so I mean, you make mistakes, you get punished for it. You may get away with it once or twice, but nothing like you will at the lower levels. And that's been the biggest adjustment, is just trying not to make mistakes over the plate and going out and executing your plan and not panicking when you do make a mistake and it does get hit, and it's a loud contact hit. Don't panic, just get the ball back, go back to executing your style, and I mean, if you stick with it, it should be good. And should.
Yeah. You've had a couple months now under Ryan Miner and this coaching staff. What have you learned from that group of coaches?
Oh, they're incredible. I mean, Lordy's incredible, Miner's incredible, Bobby, he's awesome to talk to. I mean, they're just a really solid group of coaches, and I mean, they have really good feel. They really know what they're doing, and it's been a lot of fun to play for them.
And obviously, being at the University of Arkansas, which is a big-time program, a lot invested in terms of the analytics side of the pitching coach and that kind of stuff. Did you realize when you got to this level, okay, they work with a lot of the same stuff, or was that kind of an adjustment to figure out, okay, it's now on a different level? What has the analytics side been in the professional? I
mean, it's been close to the same what I dealt with in college. A little different because I mean, you can't compare college hitters and pro hitters, but I mean, it's a little different. I mean, it's pretty much the same stuff I've always seen, just maybe a little more in depth now. But I mean, it's definitely a positive to have. It definitely helps you prepare, for the long haul and prepare for that game.
And what kind of adjustments have you made given the analytics that you've been given to maybe your repertoire?
Yeah, I mean, just mainly, I mean, nothing really just to oversee everything, but I mean, it gives me confidence in my stuff, to know like, hey, like, I mean, even though my outings have been whatever, like my stuff still plays. Yeah. And to go out, trust my stuff and trust the locations I'm supposed to throw to, and it's gonna be okay.
Aside from a great fastball, I hear you have a great slider as well. Is that true? How did you develop that slider, and when did it become kind of your go-to off-speed pitch?
I really kind of got it developed. I had it all the time growing up, but it was just I mean, as a kid, you just throw a slider and it breaks 2 foot, and kid jumps out of the box, and you're like, okay, cool. But I mean, I really got, as far as the spin axis and stuff like that, and really getting it down. I got it down my sophomore year of college, when I was with Wes Johnson, and we really hammered that out, and that became my go-to. And it's developed into a really, really good pitch, and it's still working. Yeah,
and now you see all around baseball, guys seems like are throwing fastballs less and less. They're going with more off speed, especially at the major league level. Is that something that the coaching staff has talked to you about in terms of maybe make these adjustments now so that down the road it's not so foreign to you?
I mean, it's been talked about, but I mean, it still comes down to, trusting your stuff and, knowing that hitter and what he's looking for, or, what you feel comfortable with. I mean, I think the game's changing to where it is a little bit more off-speed heavy than it is fastball, because, I mean, especially in pro ball, whether because the balls are juiced or whatever, but I mean, the hitters are really good now. Yeah. And fastballs don't scare people anymore. Velo doesn't scare people. So I mean, you got to do something to keep them off, the fastball. So I mean, I think that's why you're seeing people lean more towards, the off-speed side of stuff.
How do you feel about that change? Is that good for baseball, bad for baseball? What are your thoughts on that?
I like it. I mean, I still think it's part of pitching. I mean, you're going to have some guys you can't do that with. You're going to have some guys you can do it with. I mean, depending on the team, depending on the hitter. I mean, I don't think it's much different than what it's been. I mean, you go back and look in the past, there's been guys in pro ball that have gotten nothing but off speed, right. And then they get blown up with fastballs in or whatever. So, I mean, I think it's developed. I mean, I think it's pretty much the same, but I think you've seen a little more than what you used to as a whole.
Gotcha. I wanted to get your thoughts because you're a very analytical pitcher in the way that you think. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. I appreciate that. Blaine Knight, good luck the rest of the season. Wish you continued success here down at Frederick, and hopefully we can see you on your way up through the Orioles organization very shortly.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're on the field with Patrick Dorian, who is with the Frederick Keys, of course, and has one of the most interesting stories that I've ever heard of any professional baseball player ever. You started out as a draftee of the Atlanta Braves back in 2014, was it?
Yep.
So you were coming out of high school, you were drafted by the Braves, you go down to Florida, and a couple days in, just decided it wasn't for you, right?
Yeah, at the time I was just young and made a quick decision, so I decided that I'd back out at the time and go to school, get my education, and try to mature on and off the field and be ready for a future pro ball opportunity.
Yeah,
So.
and there are some weird rules involving that if you do sign the deal and then back out. So you could not play Division I, correct? And you also were not eligible to be drafted again. So your next move was to go to Herkimer Community College, correct?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I didn't really know me leaving would cause these things to happen, but again, can't control everything, so I just went with what I had at the time and went JUCO, and it was awesome. And then I went to Lynn University in Florida and had a great opportunity there, and I'm still here. So.
And Lynn is Division II, right?
Yep.
Was it at the community college and Lynn that you played basketball, I saw, or just at the community college?
Just at community college.
Okay.
I played 2 years there, and then it was a lot of fun and everything. But
nice.
When I got to Lynn, it was time to bear down and just focus on baseball.
What position did you play in basketball?
Point guard, shooting guard.
Nice.
Shooting was my
You
thing.
got a good
obviously.
shot?
Yeah, I mean.
Have you ever talked to manager Ryan Miner about his playing days?
I actually just found out the other day that he was drafted by the Sixers and everything.
Yeah.
I had no idea, but
he was just telling us earlier, he went to play summer league ball with AI in the Sixers
That's
at that
so
point.
cool.
That is
I
crazy.
had no idea. That's awesome.
Maybe you guys could play a little one-on-one afterwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, fascinating story. After Lynn College, you end up signing with the Pittsburgh Pirates. You were being scouted a little bit when you were pitching, or when you were playing rather, at Lynn, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what the teams were. I'd see some scouts at some games, and they'd record batting practice and things like that. But it was never a lot of communication between us. But I mean, I knew they were there, so it was nice to see that. I actually never really talked to the Pirates. I never knew they were there or anything if they were. So it kind of happened out of nowhere when they called me, but I wasn't in an opportunity to say no to any team. So they were the first ones to call, and I was excited.
So once you go to Lynn College, you said you were bearing down in terms of baseball. Was that pretty much the plan that you decided, all right, I'm going to make my way back into professional baseball after this?
Yeah, I mean, it was always in the back of my head to make it back there just because I played basketball. It was just kind of a thing to keep me in shape, and I know I had a lot of fun doing it, so I just continued with it. But baseball was always in the back of my mind. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Gotcha. So then you come over here, over to the Orioles organization in an off-season trade, and you have really hit the ground running when you've been with Frederick. You're hitting about 300. What has been the key to your success at the plate so far?
I think just continuing what I've been doing no matter where I am. I've been in these different situations throughout baseball with obviously my unique story, and the one thing I always stay true to is just work hard and never be outworked by other people. So I just continue with my good work ethic, and luckily it's paying off, so I hope I can keep it going.
Have you met anybody in your career so far that has gone a similar path to you to get to this place?
To be honest with you, no. It's super unique, but it's the cards I was dealt, so I just continue to keep working hard, and whatever comes across my path, I'll conquer it, you know what I mean?
Is there anything that you would have done differently if looking back on that?
I mean, if I knew a little bit more about the draft in high school, I would have handled it differently, but if you're asking if I regret anything, it's a no, because I learned so much throughout all of these different opportunities, and I've met so many different people that, maybe I wouldn't have met if it didn't happen this way. So I'm obviously very happy with where I'm at now, and honestly, I wouldn't change anything.
That's awesome, and you were doing great. Now, as mentioned, at the plate and defensively, a lot of these guys on your team are very versatile defensively, you included. What position do you feel the most comfortable at?
I mean, I've played the most shortstop throughout my life, but in pro ball, it's been third the most. And now being here, I'm even playing a little bit of second base. So honestly, I'm super comfortable at any infield spot. There's not one that, really sticks out more than the other.
Yeah.
I'm becoming more comfortable at each spot. So honestly, any infield position.
Do you have more fun at one spot as opposed to the other? You get a lot of balls hit to you at shortstop.
Yeah, I mean, shortstop's probably the most fun just because you get the most hit to you. But
yeah.
There's a lot of different things at third that are more fun than shortstop. There's
right.
unique things about each position that I really like.
And and one of the things that Ryan Miner talked about as well was the defensive shifting that you guys have been doing. And I've heard from some of the outfielders that it's a lot in the infield. Yeah. Have you had to kind of learn on the fly as to how to shift certain guys, when to shift?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been on the fly because I've been here. I haven't even been here a month yet, but Miner really sat down with me and explained each thing. And then if I'm at second base, the middle infielder, Sean Miller or whoever's out there, they really help me out with certain guys and 2 steps to the right, 2 steps to the left, just little things. So it's been on the fly, but I understand it for sure.
So do you feel now pretty comfortable with where you're at? Obviously, you said you've been here less than a month, but do you feel like you're in a good spot here and you're not a little bit behind, you're really caught up to speed?
At first, I felt a little bit behind just based on relationships with other guys. Coming in not knowing anyone, it's intimidating. Yeah. But they treat me like I've been here the whole season. It's like I've been here the whole time. So there's no more of that uncomfortable feeling. I'm really comfortable and I'm enjoying it.
Well, awesome. Well, you certainly look comfortable at the plate as well.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Best of luck the rest of the season. We really appreciate you sitting down here.
Appreciate it.
Pat Dorian sitting down here with the Frederick Keys. We're down here in Frederick, Maryland, and I'm sitting down with Zach Jarrett, a left fielder for the Frederick Keys. Thanks so much for joining us. Yeah. Now, it didn't take that long for us to get down here from Baltimore, but I have a feeling if you were driving, it probably would have taken maybe 20, 25 minutes. Are you a fast driver considering your family's history?
I like to think of myself as a cautious driver.
Really?
Yeah, I'm probably not the fastest driver in my family. I think my mom takes the cake on that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely. But if I have a long trip, I'm definitely going to try and cut down some time, that's for sure.
So your dad and your grandfather, both NASCAR champions. That is an incredible story. And how come you ended up in baseball as opposed to going the way of your grandfather and your father and going down the NASCAR route?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I was around NASCAR all the time. I was there on the weekends for the races that were close and whatnot. And with both my dad and grandfather being in it, it would have been an easy way to get into NASCAR, definitely. But I don't know, there was something about baseball that really just stuck out to me whenever I was growing up. I was in so many sports growing up. Both my parents had me and my sisters in whatever sport was in season. And I just grew a really close connection with baseball.
And your grandfather on your mother's side played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, correct?
Yeah, definitely. He played up until AAA. And so a lot of times if I wasn't able to go to the races, I would be able to hang out with him. And baseball is such a big part of his life, and we sort of shared that bond. And we'd watch Brave games on the weekends or whenever I was over with him, so that was always fun.
Does your father ever make it down to some of your games and get some notice in the crowd?
Oh, definitely. He tries to make it to as many games as he can. He was able to make it up here for the All-Star weekend. We play in Carolina a lot, which is nice, and my parents are able to travel a little bit and make the trips. So it makes the season go by a little bit faster being able to see them.
That's awesome. Now, you have been awesome so far this season with Frederick. You got called up to Bowie back in April, and then you found yourself back here in Frederick. What did you learn from that experience being with the Bay Sox?
I think I just learned that it was another adjustment level, getting bumped up to AA, and there were things I had to learn, not only about all the other players that are there, because there's a lot of great players at that level, but I think it was more about myself and how I need to handle myself day in and day out at that level. And I think I took a lot of what I learned and have been able to bring it back here and sort of keep building on that, and then hopefully get a chance at the next level at some point.
Being in the outfield here, I hear that you guys move around all the time. You're versatile in terms of which position in the outfield that you're able to play. And I heard from Ryan Miner, your manager, that you guys are focusing a lot on shifting too, because you're getting that from the top with this new change in the organization. Have you learned a lot in terms of how to shift, when to shift with certain guys, and has that been an adjustment for you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think it's been an adjustment for a lot of baseball teams now and a lot of organizations. We're just getting more of into the sense of kind of reading swings and reading players of how often they hit the ball where. And with the infield shifts more than we do, but I think what us outfielders as a group are sort of basing it off of is how they shift, and then we're going to sort of most likely go the opposite of them, and then sort of feed off what the hitter's doing during the games and then shift that way. But I think it helps out a lot because it's helping the players read the game more than just the coaches moving us constantly.
And you being in the batter's box, you're hitting .308 this season, you're crushing the ball with 8 homers as well. Is the shift something that you ever notice as a hitter up there and you look to beat it, or is that something you just tune it all out and you just go up there and hit?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you want to be able to get those hits, and sometimes I'll see second baseman shift up the middle or shortstop shifted in the 6 hole a little bit more, and I'm like, well, I mean, there's a hole right over there that
yeah.
I could be, but honestly, I mean, it takes a lot of back control and a lot of focus to be able to take a 96-mile-an-hour fastball in and put it over to the right side. So I try not to think about it too much, but it's definitely noticeable now.
Yeah. And how about this coaching staff under Ryan Miner? How have they helped you make those adjustments both in the field and at the batter's box?
Oh, they've been awesome. I mean, they'll give you instant feedback each time. You can go up and ask them questions, whether it be in the field with Ryan Miner. I mean, I'm able to come in and ask him what his thoughts are on moving on certain hitters and whatnot. And then with our hitting coach, Bobby, I mean, he's very good with giving you answers quickly, or not even answers, just suggestions on maybe what you could do or what he's seeing, and then you sort of build off of it together.
Awesome. Well, we wish you continued success down the rest of the season, and hopefully you're able to beat the shift a few more times as you go along.
Hopefully so. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Zach Jarrett joining us here in Frederick, Maryland. That just about does it with our coverage here from Frederick, Maryland. But don't forget, we've got a podcast, and we've got Jeff Arnold, the broadcaster of the Frederick Keys, on our podcast. Take a listen to that on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, anywhere you can find podcasts. You can find the MASN All Access podcasts. I'm Paul Mancano. We'll see you later.